Good morning. Good morning. What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Checking some levels here, making sure we sound good, making sure we look good. What is going on, everybody? Thank you very much for tuning in. Friday, January 17th, 8 o'clock on the dot. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. It's been a second here since I've been in the studio, but I'm back in the studio. I mean, we still crank out shows. It's kind of the beauty of the role on YouTube, right? Kind of be anywhere you need to be, anywhere you want to be, but you can still be putting out content and doing your thing. So thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of the show. We got a packed show today. Packed show. A lot going on in the world of sports. Sometimes we're hit on days where there really isn't all that much going on, trying to make something out of nothing. I don't have that problem today. Definitely don't have that problem today. So thank you for being here. Whatever you're drinking, I got some tea today. Had some coffee already. Look at that steam coming up. It's a great place here. Let me promote a place real quick here. Mountain Coffee in Lake Arrowhead. I don't know if you guys ever been to Lake Arrowhead. Beautiful, beautiful place. About 2 hours away from everyone in Southern California. They got a good coffee spot. It's like one of those little trailer spots. Cool place. Anyways, Mountain Coffee there. Whatever you're drinking this morning, I hope you're enjoying it. Let's throw a quote your guys' way real quick, and then I'm going to do a quick rundown, and then we're going to get the show started because we got a lot going on. Forgiveness is an act of consciousness. Forgiveness is an act of consciousness. So all those people that hate me, just forgive me. We're all good. Everything's going to be okay. Forgiveness is an act of consciousness. All right, let me give everybody a quick preview of the show, and then we'll get things started. Lakers got a couple games this weekend, by the way. Look at this. That steam coming up right there. There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm back in my environment. When you get back in your environment, you're in the studio, got the office space here, make my own coffee here, got the tea right there in front of me if I need it. I got options of different teas that I can choose from. Doing a ginger tea this morning. All right, quick preview of what we got going on for the show. D'Angelo Russell is back in Los Angeles. I want to talk some D-Lo. And we'll do that. Obviously, we'll do that tonight, or we'll do that today. But D'Lo back. To be honest with you, I just want to kind of get Laker fans' feelings on D'Lo. It's going to be probably one of the last times I talk about D'Angelo Russell. So D'Lo back in LA. The Brooklyn Nets last game, if I'm correct, lost by 59. 59. Lost by 59. Clippers early success. Okay, why am I putting Clippers on here? I'll tell you why I'm putting Clippers on here. Lakers got the Clippers coming up on Sunday. First time they're going to play them all season. First time they're going to play them over at the Intuit Dome. So I think I'm going to try to go to that. I'm not 100% sure, but this is going to be trying to, get a pass through the Clippers, not through the Lakers. I don't know if I'm going to have any success on that. So keep you posted on that. But I do want to talk about some of their early success and them obviously taking on the Lakers coming up on Sunday. It seems like the San Diego Padres are out in the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes. So I'm going to talk about my franchise and how disappointing that is. But I'm also going to spend some time their shit wasn't in order. When you got a player of that caliber that's trying to make a decision, you got to have your shit in order. And the Padres right now don't have their shit in order. So I'll spend a little bit of time on that. Rams are at Philly. That's coming up on Sunday. So we know that game's coming up. I'll help preview that a little bit. Dan Woike, the LA Times, is going to be a part of the show as well. He's going to come on about 8:30, and then we got our weekend preview, and then we're going to get the hell out of here. Weekend preview predominantly is going to be just some of the NFL games that are going on. All right, thank you for being a part of the show. Just hit 28,000 subscribers. Thank you all for being a part of that. Of course, I've told you guys this before, and I genuinely mean it. I have big plans for this channel of where I'd like it to be, where I want it to be in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, everything else. So your support would be phenomenal. And if possible, if you can subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate that. Let's get the show started. Let me read some of these comments here. See what we got. Good morning, Slee. Good morning to you, Jesus. Slee, well, excited to see D'Lo tonight. Never been more excited. Hoodie Walker is sipping on some gin and juice. A little early, but you do what you got to do. Let's see what else we have here. I saw somebody else. Somebody else was just basically saying that, yep, coffee piping out. This one's tea. All right, let's get the show started. D'Angelo Russell, Lakers got the Brooklyn Nets coming up tonight. So they got Brooklyn coming up in a 7:30 tip-off tonight. Love the 7:30 tip-offs. We'll just start our post-game show at midnight if you want. Lakers and the Nets, for the love of God. Are we still doing those late starts? Lakers got Brooklyn. Brooklyn's not a good team. You know, every time I think we talk about the Brooklyn Nets, a couple things come to my mind more than anything else. It's the Lakers traded D'Angelo Russell there. That's how they got Dorian Finney-Smith. And then you also look at some other players that are on that team. Are they going to continue to sell? And I'm talking about the Brooklyn Nets. They got some players on that roster that have been how do I put this? Have been rumored to potentially come to not just the Lakers, but some other teams as well. So Brooklyn, you very rarely are talking about them in the actual game. Cam Johnson's been a name has been thrown around. By the way, he's questionable, so we'll see if he's available tonight or not. So tonight's game is supposed to just be Lakers blow out the Brooklyn Nets. They run their record to 22-17. They try to keep pace with some of these teams in the Western Conference in front of them, like the Clippers, like the Denver Nuggets, and then you move on. So, you know, if you want a preview of the actual game, Sammy put out a video last night, so you can go watch that and get as much of a preview as you can from in that regard. As far as, you know, for me, I'm going to talk less about the Nets. I'm going to talk more about D'Angelo Russell. A couple days ago, I was after the Lakers. Dorian Finney-Smith didn't play in the last one. I don't know the latest on if he's playing tonight, to be honest with you. So I'll have to take a quick look here, and I'll try to do it while the show is going on so we can just keep things rolling. But a couple of days ago, I was talking about the trade, and it was after the Lakers lost again. Who was the third straight loss? They lost to San Antonio. And there were, you know, a lot of Laker fans feeling a certain way. I don't blame you guys. I'm kind of under the same boat when it comes to that. Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith has been listed as doubtful for Friday's game against the Nets. Dan Woike, LA Times, he's going to come on at 8:30. So I kind of proposed the question of, well, what do people think so far of that trade? What do people think of D'Angelo Russell when he left the Lakers? What do people think of, what do people think of just kind of that situation of what you've seen from Dorian Finney-Smith so far? Is this something that you think long-term makes sense? Was that the proper trade to make? Do you prefer D'Lo was still on this team? Yeah, we kind of threw some of those questions that were out there. D'Angelo Russell, I will tell you guys this. You know, one of the things, I actually didn't mind covering D'Angelo Russell. I'll tell you why. You know, from my perspective, you guys got to understand something, that the way I used to watch Lakers basketball is not the same way when I was 18 years old, or even when I was 25 years old, or even when I was 30 years old, whatever the case is. It's different when you're in the business. And sometimes there's certain players, whether you like watching that player or you don't, that's just good for business. D'Angelo Russell was a very interesting person for the Lakers when he was a part of the Lake Show for his first stint, but predominantly his second stint here, where I've been talking about him, obviously, for the last couple of years or so. The dude was polarizing. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. D'Angelo Russell was polarizing. When you talked about D'Angelo Russell, it perked some interest. And whether you loved him or you hated him, when you talked D'Lo, people had an opinion on D'Angelo Russell. And I don't think D'Lo kind of was in the middle. I will tell you, you know, to see D'Angelo Russell come back, you guys kind of know my opinion on D'Lo. I think to put together a real winning team and a championship roster, I'm not somebody that's looking for D'Angelo Russell. I don't feel like D'Angelo Russell fits into that mold for me. Now, that doesn't mean D'Lo's not a talented player, and it also doesn't mean that D'Angelo Russell got a lot of blame that he probably didn't deserve. So I think that's, probably the main thing for me on this. Sometimes it's just healthy for both sides to go in separate directions. And I thought for D'Lo, and I've said this before, I've even said before that I feel bad for D'Lo because anytime you talk about him from a Laker perspective or anybody has any opinion on him, the only time you were talking about D'Lo was, hey, when's this guy leaving? When's this guy getting out of here? D'Lo finally got traded. I do think there were a lot of times that he was made to be a scapegoat. I do think there were a lot of times that whenever there was a problem, we're like, well, we'll just blame it on D'Angelo Russell. But I also think D'Lo hurt himself. If you look at if I told you right now, tell me the characteristics that come with D'Angelo Russell. I'll tell you from my perspective, and you might have a different opinion on this. From my perspective, when I talk about D'Angelo Russell, a few things come into mind. The guy can go on a heater. Any given night, he can drop 30. The guy can get in one of those rhythms where he hits 7, 8 threes in a game. He has that ability. He has that talent. He has that skill set. Very willing passer. The ability to, I think there's a lot of, characteristics that come in his game that it just comes so easy to him. All right, here's some other things that I also attach to D'Angelo Russell. Very nonchalant. Looks like times that it doesn't look like winning, in my opinion, is the top of the agenda. Doesn't play a lick of defense. He also created something for himself in the playoffs that really put a bad taste in a lot of Laker fans' mouths. His numbers declined the bigger the moment became. And, we clearly saw that against Denver in both of those playoff rounds. So, listen, there's some positives. There's some negatives. It's probably the last time we're going to talk about D'Angelo Russell because Lakers already play at Brooklyn. I don't remember if they already played. I don't think they did. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. But I got a feeling they didn't, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But with that in mind, I think it's safe to say that, D'Lo not being with the Los Angeles Lakers, I have seen over the last maybe 4 or 5 days, I feel more people are saying, hey, why did we trade D'Angelo Russell? Or I feel more people saying, hey, how come Dorian Finney-Smith isn't doing more for the Lakers? So that's kind of the first time that I've seen that. And I'll take a look at some of your guys' comments here in just a second. I do want to look at, just because I mentioned it here, let's take a look at did they already play Brooklyn at Brooklyn? They did not. Okay, so they got another game at Brooklyn. So I lied. There'll probably be one more time that we're talking about them. They play March 10th at Brooklyn, so we'll take it from there. All right, let's see what we got here. Imagine D'Lo drops 51. So D'Lo didn't play in their last game, the game against the Clippers. I do think that D'Lo is going to try to come out. Not that, listen, Brooklyn's not beating the Lakers. Now, granted, I also said Dallas isn't beating the Lakers, and Dallas beat the Lakers without Kyrie and without Luka. But at least, from my perspective, and I've seen people say this, that, oh, look at D'Lo's numbers. Look what he's doing. If I think this first game back against Toronto, he kind of went off. Well, they lost. So nobody's saying that the guy can't make it happen or score or whatever the case is. Let me get to a couple of these comments. I was lucky enough to be at a Laker game in tunnel watching players come out, and I saw the only dude walking by himself with his head down, D'Lo. D'Lo's used to losing. D'Lo sucks for the locker room. Okay, gotta be honest. I thought there would be maybe a couple people that had his back on a couple things. All right, let me see another one here. D'Lo is addition by subtraction. Let's see what else we got here. DFS hasn't even gotten to play yet, as far as I'm concerned, if he isn't starting. Okay. D'Lo's a good start as far as trades go, but can't be finished trading before the deadline. That I think that part is clear. No question about it. I think that part is clear. I think a lot of people, clearly understand that this is not the end of at least for trading goes. Should be easy win tonight if we don't lay an egg. So Slee, don't jinx it. I already did. If I jinx it, I jinxed it. I don't know what you guys want me to tell you. If the Lakers can't beat Brooklyn, then we got much bigger problems. D'Lo can get 51 on 40 shot attempts. Let's give credit to the D'Lo guys. He did play well in the 2023 playoffs until the West Finals. Mr. X, I don't disagree with you. He did. He had some big moments against the Grizzlies and against the Warriors. Give him credit, but you also kind of see his numbers this year, how bad they were as well. My only concern with trading D'Angelo Russell was not – my concern was never not to trade him. My only concern with D'Angelo Russell was going to be if you traded him for the right guy. That's it, because his contract was so important. His contract was so key. That's the only thing that I paid any attention to when it came to D'Angelo Russell. If you're trading him, are you getting the right guy? And that's, obviously up to Dorian Finney-Smith to prove that he was the right guy. Slee, we need to fleece Brooklyn again because they still trying to dump players. I don't disagree with that. I mean, Cam Johnson is the player that I think, I think we're all kind of looking at. Is there a way to try to get Cam Johnson? I don't have an answer to it. I think we all know that this team and this roster isn't good enough. All right, let's regular season D'Lo. Okay, so we'll get a chance to see D'Lo tonight. Let's see what he does. When it's going to be, it's going to be one of the last few times that we do talk about D'Angelo Russell, but Lakers got Brooklyn tonight. I want to keep this thing moving and go from there. And you guys hang out, and we'll keep this. Any good D'Lo comments, I'll come back to. All right, let me just get to Greg real quick. D'Lo wasn't the problem for the Lakers. He was just another symptom of a lack of leadership on and off the court. Greg, you could be right. And the one way to find that out is what happens after D'Angelo Russell's gone. Because before D'Lo was here, Lakers were still losing, right? I mean, 2020, they won an NBA championship. Give them all the credit in the world for that. But over this last 5 years or so, there's been so many highs and lows, and obviously the high being getting to the Western Conference Finals, and that's been it. Okay, so under all day. Slee, over or under 15 points tonight for Rui? Under. All day. Come on. It's an easy one. The guy's coming off a 23-point performance. What do you think? I'm crazy here? Over or under 5? Under. Under on both. Come back to me on Monday and you ask me, bring the stats from Friday, okay? I'll tell you Rui's stat line right now. He's probably going to go off for 25 and 10. Well, if there's a game to do it, you got to do it against Brooklyn. I'll tell you that much. Lakers got the Clippers on Sunday. I don't typically look that far ahead because it's Sunday's game, but I want to talk Clippers here for a quick second. I was looking at the schedule this morning. Obviously, I know that the Clippers Lakers got the Clippers coming up on Sunday. Guys, I got to be honest with everybody. I'm very, very impressed with the Clippers. Very, very impressed with the Clippers. Lakers got a tough game coming up on Sunday. So they got Brooklyn tonight. I'll do a post-game show after the Lakers-Nets game, by the way. So if you guys want some Laker conversation tonight, that will be happening at basically 3 a.m. because tip-off's at 7:30. Okay? Why are we still doing 7:30 tip-offs? I mean, if you're someone in Brooklyn and you're watching the Nets in LA, that means the game starts at 10:45. What are we doing here? All right, so Lakers and the Clippers coming up on Sunday. I'm impressed with the Clippers. They're 23 and 17 on the season. Sunday's going to be a tough game against the Clippers. It's going to be the first time they play at the Intuit Dome. And, I already have my team. I have a team of 9 people that are going to be out there that are going to be counting the toilets. Because you guys remember, Steve Ballmer said they have more toilets than any other arena in the NBA. And so I have a team of 17 people going to be in Inglewood on Sunday night counting each toilet. Because if they don't have the most toilets in the league, I'm just telling Ballmer, better lawyer up, brother. I think he'll be okay when it comes to that. So Lakers got the Clippers coming, 23-17. By the way, just quick thing on the Clippers. Their last 2 games they've won. Trash teams, I get it. They beat Brooklyn by 59, and they beat the Blazers last night, second of a back-to-back, by 29. So they've won their last 2 games by 88 points. It's going to be a tough game on Sunday. And I got to be honest, I'm not sure 100% if I know what to expect, if I know what kind of Laker team is going to come out, but you know that the Clippers are going to be ready for the Lakers. You just know that they're going to. 5th in the Western Conference for the Clippers. It's kind of a fascinating team. Kawhi has played 4 games so far this year, and he's on a minutes restriction. So what you can really say is that Kawhi's had 0 impact on the Clippers so far this year. Obviously, his impact's going to come as the season progresses. They didn't go give Paul George that 5-year contract that he was looking for. He ends up signing in Philly. Let's actually, I want to look at this real quick. Philly's 15-24. They've lost 4 games in a row. They're just in complete disarray. The only player I really like on that team consistently is Tyrese Maxey. Paul George is giving you 17 points a game. You're paying 200 and something million for Paul George. He's giving you 17 points a game. So anyways, point is that the Clippers made their own decisions, whether you liked them or you didn't. This team lost PG. They lost Kawhi Leonard, at least so far this year. He really hasn't had any impact. They're 6 games over 500. I think Sunday is going to be a really tough game for the Lakers. And we're going to kind of find out a little bit more about this team and about the Clippers. But if I told you who's leading the Clippers right now in scoring, it's not James Harden. It's not Kawhi Leonard. Norman Powell is leading their team. By the way, Ivica Zubac, who the Lakers just absolutely handed over to the Clippers for nothing, 15 points a game, 12.5 rebounds. You think the Lakers can use a guy like Ivica Zubac right now? Let me see what the Lakers are missing. Let me just kind of give this some thought. So what has everybody been saying that the Lakers need is a real big, somebody that can potentially play with Anthony Davis or when Anthony Davis is not there. Here's a name. How about Ivica Zubac? No, instead, they handed him to the Los Angeles Clippers. But it's been an impressive start for the Clippers. And I don't know, where they're going to be by the time the season ends. I'm not telling you that they're going to be a true threat in the Western Conference. But what I'm telling you is from what happened in the offseason for them to where they're sitting today, it's an impressive start of the season for the Clippers. We're almost at the halfway point. So this is kind of the team that they're going to be. And for them to be sitting in 5th in the Western Conference, I think a lot of people looked at it. I know for me, before the season started, it's like, okay, who's going to be in the playoffs? You had your regulars, right? All right, OKC is going to be good. Memphis is going to be healthy again. Denver will be there. Dallas just got to the NBA Finals. You assumed Minnesota would be good. You assumed Phoenix would be in the mix. I didn't know where the Clippers were going to be. Clippers are right in the thick of it. So tough game coming up on Sunday. So that kind of previews a little bit of both of those games that the Lakers got coming up over these next couple of days. So they got Brooklyn tonight, and then they got and like I mentioned, they have the Clippers coming up on Sunday. Please don't. All right. Good here? Something just pause here. Please don't say. I'm not going to say it. I won't say it. I know. I'm not going to say it. I'm also not going to say it because I don't think it is one of those. You see what I'm saying? But I won't say it. Lakers could use a Mike Muscala. They traded freaking, gosh, dang it. Zubac is 15 and 12.5 a game. I didn't even look at his blocks. What does he blocks? About 1.2 a game. Oh my gosh, what an awful trade. What an awful trade. Literally the exact guy that the Lakers need right now. They decided to go hand that over to the Los Angeles Clippers. All right, let me look at a couple more of these comments. Oh, a lot of people. Yeah, now this is what's coming up now. Now, it's probably the first time that I've had this many people wanting to talk about Mike Muscala. Probably not going to do that. Probably not going to talk about him. All right, so this kind of gives I will say this. I will say, as we kind of go into the weekend, the storylines to take away more than anything else, you want the Lakers just to get W's. Right now, that's the most important thing for them. And I know that, kind of looking at before the game against Miami, by the time you got to halftime against Miami, we're all looking at the Lakers saying to ourselves, what the hell's going on with this team? They did turn around the second half, but kind of an important weekend for the Lakers. Brooklyn should be a layup, even though we've thought some other games are supposed to be layups. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the Clippers game I think is going to be really, really tough. I'm impressed what the Clippers have done so far this year. Okay, I'm going to hold off on some of the comments here. As promised, I want to welcome in our guest for the show this morning. He covers the Los Angeles Lakers and does it for the LA Times. Dan Woike of the LA Times. Dan, good morning, my friend.
Alan, I'm glad we were able to make this work. We've been talking about doing this for a couple of weeks. We've had some scheduling and life snafus, but we're here. It's early. I'm ready. Let's
go.
Let's get it. I think we should start with Mike Muscala, Alan. Let's start with Mike Muscala.
Well, that's why I wanted to reach out. I wanted to reach out just for Muscala. I wanted to kind of start from the beginning of his career to where he is today. You down for that?
I believe, and I don't know if I can be libeled for this or should. I think he has like a big tattoo of a rifle.
Okay,
he's like he's an outdoorsman. He has like a big like rifle guy. He is in the long line though. And it's funny you mentioned Mike Muscala, and I don't want to hijack what you want to talk about.
No. We're going. I had enough in the chat that mentioned Muscala. We're going Muscala right now.
It is. It's a name that has come up in the last, I'd say, 2 weeks around the Lakers, more than once, and it comes up when people talk about guys who make shots who come to the Lakers and then can no longer make shots. Like it is just sort of like this long list of shooters where for whatever reason you come to the Lakers, the ball gets a little heavy, the lights are a little bright, the palms start sweating maybe a little bit. I don't know, whatever it is. He's an archetype around trade season. Like you hear a lot of like Mike Muscala chatter, and it's always in that context.
Well, okay, legend. So here, what did I hear? It was, I think they were highlighting. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. You know what it was? It was the broadcast on Spectrum. Billy Mack and Stu Lance were talking about Tyler Hero in the last game, and they were saying most threes made so far this year. And one of the names they brought up was Beasley. And instantly, I'm like, of course. No, of course. Or a week and a half ago when we got to see Spencer Dinwiddie with the Dallas Mavericks. I'm like, no, of course. Dinwiddie looks like he's kind of looked all his career except for when he played for the Lakers.
So, the Beasley thing he's kind of hinted at it that like maybe it wasn't the most comfortable situation. And if you were to like say, look at his Instagram past versus say like the children of NBA players that were on the Lakers at that time, and like there was some awkwardness, I think we'll say, right? Without like your listeners can connect some dots. It was a weird year. It's also weird getting traded midseason. I think Beasley's been awesome this year. He's been awesome. That list of we can run through it, right? Like Wes Matthews, Wayne Ellington, Reggie Bullock, Mike Muscala, as they've the last month, Dalton Connect. It's been like sort of this last this thing where I saw someone Torrey Prince shot it pretty well last year, but like it's not an easy job, right? And I think one of the things, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. I think one of the things that I try to do in the way that I cover the team that I think is a little different is like I try to like be really, really focused on like how personal dynamics and all of that stuff sort of plays out on the court, and like thinking about roles and how it affects people. I don't want to say like basketball psychologist. That sounds crazy. That makes me sound way more qualified than I am. But like, okay, so imagine, right? Like if you're Malik Beasley, right? So you go to the Lakers. and you're playing with LeBron James, you're playing with D'Angelo Russell, you're playing with Anthony Davis. Like the ball is gonna like your movement is gonna slow down.
Mm.
The ball is gonna stick a little more because you have these like incredible isolation players, right? Particularly on LeBron James, and so like you're gonna touch it less. Like your energy is gonna be a little different, right? Guys always say the ball is energy, right? And you watch him on Detroit now, like the ball pops, he's running around the court, and like that's just not how the Lakers played. So like, he would maybe only touch it 6 times in a shift, and all 6 times he'd be expected to shoot.
Mm.
And I think it affects your rhythm. And it is a difficult thing. Like one of the guys who was awesome at this was PJ Tucker, who would just like what one of the things that made him so special offensively is like his ability to stand in the corner, do nothing,
Sure,
and stay ready. And it's hard. And you talk to guys about this all the time.
that's
like,
with guys like Harden having the ball too, right?
Sure.
A rule for Tucker. It's like I'm never going to touch the ball, and when I do, I got to be ready to shoot.
And D'Angelo Russell struggled with this, like admittedly. Him and I have had multiple conversations about like, the challenges of doing this, where like you had the ball in your hands, like you're used to being like the focal point of an offensive plan, or at least like a pretty like intricate part of it, and then things slow down. This isn't to say LeBron. LeBron is an all-time leading scorer in the NBA. There's a reason why it makes sense to isolate LeBron James a lot, right? One of the greatest mismatch hunters this game has ever seen. It is just though it is a thing, and some guys are good at it, some guys aren't. I think early returns on Dorian Finney-Smith, good at it. He was a guy I would say early on, and like where people were like when he got off to that really slow start shooting. I may have heard the name Mike Muscala once or twice.
I'm sure you have. That's full circle right there. That's full circle right there. Dan Woike joining us here, covers the Lakers for the LA Times. Let's start with this. And there are a lot of angles I want to go, but you mentioned D'Angelo Russell. Lakers got Brooklyn tonight. When that trade went down, I know a lot of the chatter and the conversation of all the time that D'Lo was with the Lakers, a lot of the talk was not, hey, this guy's going to be a great part of the Lakers' future. It's, hey, you can use that contract to trade it. Or, hey, if you trade him, what are you going to get for him? Just your opinion, why you think D'Lo didn't work for the Lakers, why he was never going to be a part of a long-term plan, and just your actual thoughts on that trade of what came back in the Dorian Finney-Smith portion.
Sure. Let's work backwards. I think getting Dorian Finney-Smith without giving up a first-round pick was a win for the Lakers. It does, and it should, to Laker fans, speak to how valuable expiring money is at the trade deadline, and that was how they were able to get that done, right? It was they were able to trade D'Angelo Russell, and save a first-round pick. So as you're trade machining, whatever deals you've got, and you're sending out Jared Vanderbilt, you're sending out Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, whoever it may be. Keep that in mind, right? And I've written about this a little bit over the last couple weeks, that it's like long money at the trade deadline is not a positive thing. And normally you have to attach extra assets to it to get that done. So I think in the short term, look, I think they are a more functional basketball team. They are less cluttered. And they addressed a need in toughness and versatility and in shooting and Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Now let's work back on the D'Lo stuff. Why didn't it work out? One, did it not work out? I think, right, is one way to look at it. They went to the playoffs twice. He went to the conference finals. He certainly post Westbrook, like he was a part of a trade that like raised their floor some. Obviously had some really big moments. I do think that there was, obviously the defensive limitations were always going to be a thing. I think what I was just talking about in terms of guys playing on the ball and off the ball was always going to be a challenge for him. And I think too, if you're committed as an organization to Austin Reeves, which the Lakers clearly are, like at a certain point, like having both of them together you have to ask yourself, like, is this best for the development of Austin Reeves? And I think the answer was no. I mean, we saw, right? Like, I mean, the last two coaches decided that that starting backcourt wasn't tenable, and they both had to, at one point, I mean, Austin went to the bench, then D'Lo went to the bench, and then this year, D'Lo went to the bench. Like it wasn't going to work, right? So, and I think like D'Lo as like a second unit guard, exciting player, not quite as consistent as you would want, I think, necessarily, and not quite as comfortable in those lower things. And end of the day, Alan, I mean, the longer I watch this league, the longer I cover this league, if you're not a guy who impacts winning without scoring or without having the basketball, really, it's just hard. It's just like you can only have so many of those guys, and I think they sent one out and they got one back who can impact the game without scoring.
The a lot of the chatter, and I think this just kind of comes with the territory. We were looking at a lot of Laker needs a month ago. And one trade goes down, and I do think they addressed some of that by bringing in Dorian Finney-Smith. We'll see how much Shake Milton gets an opportunity to try to help. Before we get to February 6th, if you have to emphasize one spot, one position, what's most important right now, you think, for the Lakers to try to improve the roster? Is it an obvious one where now they need a bruiser, they need a big? Is it something else? What are you hoping to see from the Lakers before February 6th?
Yeah, I think the way you mentioned, I wrote about this in the newsletter this week, and I would tell people that that's free. We would love it if you would pay for the LA Times, everybody, but like the newsletter is a free thing that I do every week, and I get to kind of like I try to write like I'm talking today. So one of the interesting things in my conversations with people around the league lately is like been about like who are the Lakers targeting, right? Like, is that a thing? And what's interesting about trade targets is, and you said it there, it's like you don't really target like we're going to go trade for Jonas Valanciunas, right? Like that's not really how this works in front offices. The way it works is like you may eventually land there, but the way it works is it works with like you find the archetype of what it is you need. Like, do we need a bruising big, right? Like, do we need toughness? Do we need size on the wing? Do we need shooting? And you start like it's almost like an upside down triangle. Like you start with these like big categories, and then you start distilling down to like what might be available, what might be there at the cost points that you can get to, and then you start to like figure out what's actually out there for you. So I think like my sort of like there's probably some differences in this. I think I align a little bit with where the organization is at on this. I think they need toughness more than anything, like snarl, like whatever, right? And I think that doesn't necessarily mean, and it shouldn't mean, in my opinion, size, like slow size. Like, I think they need people who can win 50-50 balls. They need people who can run to rebounds. They need people who can get up and down the court. They're not great in transition. They need people who can move. So that's pretty important. I think like toughness and athleticism would be high on my list. I watch them, I think, shooting, obviously. I see a lot of people mentioning Miles Turner. And like Indiana's pretty good, and they're playing better basketball. Miles Turner would almost certainly, Miles Turner would almost certainly cost you a first round pick, and you're gonna have to pay him this summer, and it might not cost you a first. Like Indiana may not want to trade him because they've been to like sort of the edge on Miles Turner trades a lot, and they've never pulled the trigger. So.
They're playing well too.
They're
playing well too. They're in the mix. They're in the mix.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's not an impossibility based on kind of the people that I've spoken to lately, in terms of like whether or not he could get moved. But I mean, that's not going to happen tomorrow. Like we got time still, right, on that one. I do not think they need a starting center. I think they're paying Anthony Davis $60 million to be their starting center. I feel very firmly about that. I think the ripples of that would be it would slow you down, right? Because now you're adding a slower player probably at center, and then Davis playing the 4. LeBron James then moves to the 3. Like that's I don't love it, defensively, to be honest. I think you lose too much, sort of like in half court defense. So, and in transition for whatever it's worth, like for me. But all right, go ahead, jump in.
No, I was going to say because I think sometimes we can, and I like the way you described it of what is it that you actually need first before you even mention a player, and then you could try kind of figuring out, the mold. And I think probably a lot of Laker fans would agree with you on the lack of toughness or the 50-50 balls, or how many times have you looked at the box score at the end of the game? It's like, well, that team had how many more offensive rebounds of the Lakers, which means how many more shot attempts did they have? And then the Lakers end up losing by 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever the case is. With that in mind, of course, if you're going to make a trade, people got to go out.
Yep.
What players do you feel like are expendable on this roster? What players do you feel like, if a trade does go down, are most likely? Listen, I know we're guessing here, and there's no science to it. But what players do you feel, if the Lakers do make a move, are probably on the short list of expendable players?
Okay, so there are no untradeable players, right? None. Like there's a deal that would get done for everybody on the roster, right? So, if the Spurs wanted to trade Victor Wembanyama, you believe the Lakers would send out Anthony Davis. They would send out LeBron James, right? So with that established as a baseline, the players that are least likely to trade, obviously, are the top three, which are Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Austin Reeves, right? So everybody else, to some degree, is expendable, but they like anybody that anybody wants matters to the Lakers. And when we talk about some of the other players involved in this, like, Gabe Vincent is like a name that people talk about a lot. Like, Gabe Vincent's pretty important to this basketball team, the way it's currently constructed today. They are a team that is light on ball handlers. They are a team that is light, again, on toughness, right? And and I think, like, he is a guy that, like, checks those two boxes. And he's played a lot better, but, like, I think those are, like, two really big things, right? So, if you're going to trade Gabe Vincent out, like, you need to address that coming back somehow. They do, if Jared Vanderbilt is healthy, they do have guys that kind of play that 3-4 thing, where maybe one of those guys goes out. Now, Jared Vanderbilt has the least value of all of them, right? He hasn't played in a year. He's got a lot of years left on his deal. You are going to have to attach a very good asset to trade Jared Vanderbilt today, right? So that probably means you're not going to trade him because you don't have a ton. You already don't have a ton. You don't have, like, what my dad used to call it, like, walking around money. You know what I mean? Like the stuff, like, you throw $10 on this, like, piece of trash at, like, the whatever, right? Like, you've got, like, that's not what this is. So Jared Vanderbilt matters more to the Lakers than he does to anyone else. So there's a big disparity there. Rui Hachimura is probably the closest to a neutral asset, and he has sort of the right number, but he has years behind it, and he's young. And, like, quite frankly, like, does a lot of the stuff that you're probably looking for. The problem is he doesn't do it all the time.
Yep.
Right? So, like, you try to coach that up, right? And maybe that's the better pathway. If this sounds like I'm a trade fatalist, it's not that. It's that I think there are real challenges here to this, right? Like, I was talking to Scott from a different team yesterday, and, like, he used the word stuck like 4 times, right? Because the Lakers are just, like, generally speaking, you're either going to have to overpay in a trade, and they're definitely not in a position to overpay. Just based on, like, kind of the assets they have and what they've got net. Like, they're just not. But they're also still like, they're definitely not bad enough, and they're definitely not hopeless enough for you to be like, we're good. We made our trade. Like, let's wash our hands, right? So you have to get real smart. You have to get real creative. You have to find things around the margins, and if you can, like, tick up, places here 5 to 7% in production, like, little things, right? Like, they're not game changers in that sense, but you do these different things, and like, you just sort of elevate your floor just a little bit. You push your ceiling up just a little bit. Then if things break right for you, you have good injury health, you have good injury luck. I'm sorry, you get the right matchups. Then maybe maybe it works out. It's a hard situation.
Yeah, and that's part of it's actually a perfect transition because I thought I had a good idea of what I thought this team was. If you asked me, hey, what's the identity of this Lakers team a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
I think things were starting to trend in the right direction. I think the fact that, the Lakers doubled down on, let's go get another player that can play defense, that can hit threes. I think it started kind of clarifying what their identity is.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
As we sit here today, I could look at, and I'm completely understanding of the last, week and a half in LA is so odd. And it has thrown everything off. And if anybody wants to pretend like it hasn't thrown off players or anything like that, I think we're fooling ourselves. And you would know more than anybody else because you're in front of these guys all the time. It is affected and still affecting and will affect for a long time. This is not something. This is okay. Hey, well, that's done. We move on. But with that being said, I think the thing that confuses me about this team so much is I almost don't know who they are by the time one half ends to another. We could look at, up 6, momentum gaining against Dallas, and then you lose by basically 20. You could look at the Spurs game where they're up 9 at halftime. They get outscored 73-40. Look at the game against Miami, down 12, and then, a comfortable lead there with a couple minutes left in the fourth quarter. If I ask you to kind of describe this Lakers team, their identity, who they are, do you feel like you have an answer?
I mean, I think they are like a goodish team, right? Like to be realistic, and they've been a play-in team the last couple of years, right? They've hovered around sort of that 5 to 9 spot in the West this year. I mean, they're telling us who they are, right? Sure. In that way, right? And I think the symptoms of that are what we see on the court and what you're discussing. I mean, it's inconsistency is what you're describing, right? Like they are a team that is capable of hitting the highs. They are not a team that is capable of staying there for 2 straight months, like that. Like as of today, that's the reality of it, right? Like they haven't had, okay, like let's say, I mean, if you're going to win an NBA title, right? Like you're going to play 25 games. Like they have not had a good 25 game stretch, right? Like pick a starting point and end point. They haven't really had one yet. They haven't had like they haven't had like a miserable one either. They had one pretty rough stretch early in the year, but like I think the like what I come back to is if I was looking for reasons to be optimistic, you just have to lean into internal growth and like moves around the margins, because that's really your only crack at this, is that that you have to believe that JJ Redick will get better, right? So you just have to believe it. You have to believe that Austin Reeves, cast into this sort of like clear third star role, will improve, because and the reason you would believe in it is because everything you put in front of him to date, he's done and exceeded. So he'll figure this out too, right? Like, so you have to believe that. You have to believe that Jared Vanderbilt is going to get healthy enough to help a little.
Sure.
Like I think they're realistic about him in terms of like, excuse me, his ability to play like 30 minutes a night, chasing around John Morant, right? I think you have to believe also that Max Christie's going to get better. And by the way, like watching him over the last 4 weeks, like, it's a funny comment about the tooth fairy. Like you do sort of have to like, you just kind of have, like, a lot of things are going to have to go right. It's not an impossible pathway. And teams do this, right? It's like, this does occur. And sometimes a team like Dallas does it where they make, they put their first round picks into play and they change their identity with 2 trades and, they take off, right? Sometimes that happens. And there are other teams sometimes that it's like a slower build. You know, and you just kind of learn how to like function together. I mean, I think that is probably the pathway, but they still need to like I was texting with someone last night. I mean, just like nine to 11 right now on the roster just isn't good enough. Like when they have to play, right? Like that was rough against Miami. Like those guys need to be better. Like getting Connect out of this funk is like so important to them based on where they are. But I would tell people who are like, well, if he's not going to get out of the funk, like just trade him. I mean, you want shooting, you need cost controlled players.
Sure.
Like this is why you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
This is like it is the Goodwill Hunting math problem that is on the wall, and the Lakers have stared at it for 2+ years now, and it's a hard one.
I think it's apparent that you're going to need a lot of things to go your way. You're going to need players who have been inconsistent to be more consistent. You're going to probably need some breaks in the Western Conference or whatever the case is. But that I think that's the reality of where they're sitting. And I think what you mentioned early on, that's not that much different than the last 2 years, right? Like there is some similarities to, yes, they got to the Western Conference Finals, but they had some breaks that went their way in order to get to the Western Conference Finals. But that's okay. That's part of sports. I mean, last year they had Denver in the first round. They didn't have him in the Western Conference Finals, and the season was over before May 1st rolled around. But I think that there's only a couple teams in the league where you got to feel really good about where you are, and you got to feel really good about, what the future looks like. The Lakers are in the mix with a lot of teams in the Western Conference where I think there's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Alan, are you a poker player at all? Ever?
Yeah.
Have you been a poker player?
Yeah.
It's like, I was texting with somebody about this. Like what poker hand are the Lakers right now? Right? Like what starting hold'em hand are they?
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably something like 7-8 of clubs. 9-10 of clubs, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like where it is a workable hand. Or maybe not even suited connectors, maybe just connectors. Like it's a workable hand, but like it's not aces, it's not kings.
Sure.
Maybe it's like pocket fours or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where and that's just the reality of it. Like the Thunder are aces, like right now, they need they are in as good a position for today and tomorrow as possible. They still have to do it, right? Like they still have to actually achieve it, and when it gets really important, you still have to do it. But, that team is there. Boston is there. Cleveland, conceptually is there. Those teams are right there. I think Memphis, certainly seems to, if they're healthy, know who they are and they have, a real thing. And they're going to be – I've heard they've been pretty aggressive at the trade deadline for what they're going to add and different things like that. But I mean, a lot of teams really what roster building is, and what building a team is, unless you're in a situation like some of those other ones I mentioned, where you've had a long runway, you've been able to add these picks slowly and build yourself that way, is you accentuate your strengths and you hide your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If that's just what it is. You know what I mean? I would never, when I was single, I wouldn't have posted a picture of myself shirtless on Tinder. This is not what I would have done. What I did do.
But now that you're not single, will you?
Now my Tinder is totally different.
Not on Tinder.
Now my Tinder is totally different now that I'm not single. But no. I mean, I think Alan, what I did was, I'm not ashamed to admit this, is that I had a picture of myself when I was on TV, and I kind of cropped out everything, but it was hey, look at me, I was on TV.
Sure.
You're right. That was accentuate the strength. I like the weaknesses. So I think that's true for everybody, right? And the Lakers have to figure out how to do it. You mentioned identity earlier. I think one of the interesting things JJ talked about earlier this year is how identity shifts, and it shifts all the time, right? And so you just got to catch it at the right time and figure out who you are at the right time. I don't believe this team is gonna be like, we're dogs. We're going to win games 97-92
Sure.
with suffocating defense. That's just not who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not who they are. Like they can be that way, but like they're sort of play acting, right? Like you have to really, really work hard on them to get to that, right? So they can do it, but that's not who they are. And I think that's honestly is what they're going to have to be. Like Alan, their strength is that they are sort of bendable, they are sort of pliable, and you know, they're just going to have to meet the moment when the moment gets big.
Dan, I appreciate it, brother. Great insight. What did I ask? I was like, hey, 20, 25 minutes of your time. I took you over. Took you over there.
To be clear, not currently on Tinder. I wanted just in case, and this makes its way around. Just to be 100%, I'm on Bumble.
For those,
I'm also not on Bumble. I'm just kidding.
For those of you on the chat, you can find him on Tinder. No. LA Times.
Follow me.
Yeah,
Follow me on Tinder.
Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. I appreciate it, brother. We'll see you soon at a game. Thank you for. By the way,
Yep.
are you a coffee guy in the morning? What are you drinking there?
This is a coffee.
Okay.
It is too hot currently.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for it to cool down a little bit. Yes.
Okay. Cap on, off.
I'm trying to figure out what to do. I think I'm gonna go cap off.
Yeah, I go cap off because then you can gives you
But
more time
this thing
to
is
take it down.
Vacuum. It's like vacuum sealed on here.
Yeah,
no, it is.
Don't hurt
thanks.
yourself there. Don't hurt yourself there.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. We'll see
Thanks,
you soon,
Alan.
and thank you for the insight. All right, that's Dan Woike right there. Great stuff, Dan. He's not on Tinder. Again, we're going to emphasize that again. He's not currently on Tinder. Great stuff there, man. I people like that. I've known Dan for a while, but they're always at the games. They're always at the pressers. They're always at the practices. They're always at that. So it's good to have, somebody like that can come on and kind of offer some insight. I'm at occasional games, but I'm not at every game. I'm at occasional pressers, but I'm not at every presser. So that was great stuff to have right there. I think the thing I take away most from that conversation, I appreciate all the comments too and the chats, everything coming in. So sorry I wasn't able to pay a lot of attention to this when this was all going on. But the thing I take away, and I think most people would agree with this, what did he say? They're good-ish. Yeah, it's kind of what they are, right? Like that's kind of exactly what the Lakers are. They are a team that on any given night, not even any given night, any given half, you can walk away like, damn, that was really good basketball. Lakers against Miami in the second half. Wow, they dominated them. Lakers against the Spurs in the first half against San Antonio. But what you have issues with, I think, with the Lakers is, can you put something together collectively that you feel good? That's the squad. I could tell you, if I told you right now, tell me about the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm going to pause. I'm going to hesitate. I'm going to tell you, yeah, this thing is great. This thing is not that great. If they did this, if they did that, if that player performed, if that player, doesn't perform, I'm going to spend a lot of times kind of trying to figure out as we go. So I think that is a great way to kind of explain what the Lakers are. And I appreciate Dan's time, and we'll keep the show rolling. Okay. Let me just give everybody a quick idea here. We are about 58 minutes in, and I still have, at least a minimum of about 10 more minutes in the show, probably a little bit longer. I'm just going to keep going, and I will end the show talking a little bit more Lakers as well, but I do want to keep the show rolling here because I got a lot of topics that are important to talk about here that I mentioned that I was going to get into. Okay. As we switch gears here, let's, by the way, please subscribe to the channel if you've yet to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having interest in the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, and I appreciate it. Please subscribe. Okay. So I'm driving to the studio this morning, and I got to be honest, it's not a huge surprise to me. I think I've talked to you guys about this before. I'm talking about Roki Sasaki. I'm driving in this morning, and I am in San Diego right now. Last week or so, I was in LA, but I'm in San Diego this morning, and I'm driving in, and there's a local sports radio station out here, 97.3 The Fan, which is the home of the Padres. So they have a show that starts in the morning at 6 a.m. So I'm already on the road. I'm on the road maybe 6:10-ish or so, and I hear them say it's really disappointing. it looks like there's reports out there that the Padres are starting to spend some of that international money that they were holding on for Roki Sasaki. There was I'm going to read his name here, Francis Romero, who is he's a baseball sports writer for MLB. And he says, hearing from multiple sources that the Padres are out on Roki Sasaki. And then there was another tweet out there, which tells you a little bit more that, yes, they are probably out because they're starting to spend that international money. So with that said, let me see here. I want to look at one other thing. Just some stuff has happened since I started the show. One of the reports on there was the Padres were officially signed 6'3" Dominican left-hander Carlos Alvarez for around $1 million in bonus money. The Padres are out on Roki Sasaki. If you're spending your international bonus pool money, then that means you're out. And then as I sit here and I'm doing the show, the Blue Jays have acquired $2 million in international signing bonus pool money, sources confirm. Toronto is now a finalist along with the Dodgers in the race to sign Roki Sasaki. This one's going to be more of a little bit focused from a Padre perspective, and then we'll come back to it. It's not a surprise or a shock to me. I'm going to tell you why it's not a surprise or a shock to me. It's a gut punch. Don't get me wrong. And I'm sure there's a lot of Dodger fans here that feel great. Hey, Padres are out of the mix. There were always two teams that they said got a shot at Roki Sasaki. One of them was clearly the Dodgers, and the other one was the San Diego Padres. And there were some reasons of why the Padres were in the mix. Maybe it's Roki's relationship with Yu Darvish. Maybe it's the relationship that A.J. Preller was able to build with Roki Sasaki and his team over the years. Peter Seidler, the late owner of the San Diego Padres, who passed away about a year and maybe 4 or 5 months ago or so. The Padres have been targeting Roki Sasaki for a while. Let me tell you why this doesn't surprise me that they're no longer in the mix. To go get a player like Roki Sasaki, and to be able to acquire a player like that, where it doesn't just come down to money. The Dodgers can throw around $325 million and go get Yamamoto. They can throw around 135 and go get Tyler Glasnow. They can throw around 180 and go get Blake Snell. That's the competitive advantage that the Dodgers have right now in the current state of Major League Baseball. That's the lazy advantage that the Dodgers have. When I say lazy, as in it doesn't actually give them enough credit in how that organization is ran by just going out and spending money. They're also a good organization that understands how to develop pitchers. They also understand how to have one of the top farm systems in all of Major League Baseball, even though they have the resources and the money where they technically don't have to depend on the farm system. If you're a good organization, you should be depending on your farm system, and everything else that you're doing on top of that is just kind of showing your strength or the ancillaries. When you're competing, and listen, maybe Toronto's still in the mix, but I know some of the reports earlier that were out there, it didn't sound like Roki Sasaki wanted to go out on the East Coast. So, how much that's going to have into play. Toronto is basically as far away from Japan as you can get. I don't think that Toronto's really in play, but, maybe they are. Maybe we're all wrong and he signs with the Toronto Blue Jays. But if you're the San Diego Padres and you're going up against the Los Angeles Dodgers for Roki Sasaki, you got to have your shit together. And what makes you think in this offseason that the Padres have had their shit together? And unfortunately, and I told you guys this, it hurts me to say this, it's a gut punch. I want to see the city where I'm from win their first freaking World Series and bring a championship to a very underrated fan base out here in San Diego that's been disrespected so many different times with bad ownership. You got to have your stuff together. You're not going up against the Arizona Diamondbacks or the Colorado Rockies or the San Francisco Giants or name any other team out there. As of right now, the Dodgers are not even just the team in baseball. They're the team in sports that everybody's looking at. It's like, Jesus, Lord, can they make a bad move? Can they make some wrong moves? By the way, they have. It's not like they've been perfect every time, but you can cover up bad moves with the Dodgers because there's so many other things that they've been able to do or been able to accomplish. But look at the two franchises. The Dodgers win a World Series. They re-sign a lot of, a bunch of key players like Teoscar Hernandez. Tommy Edman gets a deal. They go out there and they sign Blake Snell, a two-time Cy Young Award winner. Hae-Sung Kim, I don't know that much about, but that's the Korean player that they brought in as well, and they traded Gavin Lux to give him some opportunities. They're going to have a bunch of players that are coming back, and they can really, really put Roki in a position where they have a six-man rotation. We already know the staff, right? That probably part of the reason why they went out there and said, well, let's go pay $180 million for Blake Snell. Well, not only do we get Blake Snell, it also gives us another talking point to try to bring Roki Sasaki here, because they're not going to be depending on Roki in his first year where, hey, the season's on the line. Roki's got to go pitch 30 times, 35 times a year, or whatever the case is. They've put themselves in a position where the pitch and the case that they can make for Roki is a real pitch. All right, let's look at it from the Padres perspective. They haven't signed anybody in the offseason. The biggest story that's come with the Padres in this offseason are the owners suing each other. The late owner, Peter Seidler, his wife, is suing Peter Seidler's two brothers and the organization for ownership. That's been the biggest story that's happened with the San Diego Padres. If at least you're going to give yourself a shot to where money is not going to be the difference of you bringing a player in over an organization that has endless money, your shit's got to be in order. And unfortunately for the San Diego Padres, it's not. Now, I give the Padres and I give AJ Preller a lot of credit for what they were able to accomplish last season. A lot of credit. You went game 5 against the Dodgers. You had a chance to beat the Dodgers. You were up 2-1. I've said this before. I think the Padres got too cocky. I think they choked at the end. But I think they got overconfident and it became too personal against the Dodgers. And that's not, you can't play the Dodgers game. You just got to play your own game. They weren't able to accomplish that. They weren't able to cash in. They weren't able, and who knows, maybe they would have lost to the Mets or they would have got to the World Series and lost to the Yankees. I don't have a crystal ball here. I can't tell you what the future would have been, but instead of the Padres building off of what they did last year and everything seeming like it's heading in the right direction, and it looks like, hey, yes, the Dodgers have Shohei and they have this player and that player, but look what we've done this offseason. Look at the moves that we've made this offseason. By the way, look how aligned our ownership is of where the franchise is going. Can't make that case. So it's a disappointing morning for me, but it's not a surprise to me. If you're going up, the Dodgers are that white-collar corporation where their I's are dotted, their T's are crossed. It doesn't feel like they make that many mistakes. If that's your competition, got to have your shit in order. And the Padres did not have their shit in order in the offseason. And maybe that had something to do with Roki signing with the Padres. Maybe it didn't. Maybe he was always going to be a Los Angeles Dodger like most people felt. Hell, the agent of Roki Sasaki had to come out at some point and say, I can't believe that, you guys don't trust me, that no, the deal is not already done with the Dodgers. Maybe it was already done months ago and they just couldn't make this announcement. And I know it's not official yet. Toronto's still in the mix. But if you're going to give yourself a shot, your papers got to be in order. And I thought the Padres papers right now, they're a little bit all over the place. You walked into my office, and if you looked at the papers, I got some papers over here. Hey, what's the revenue looking like this month? Oh, let me get that for you. And it's like you're kind of like running all over the place, where if the way the Dodgers are ran today, it's what's the revenue this month? It is, I got the total right here for you. Where you projected in 3 months? I got the total right here for you. What if this happens? Yep, here's our contingency plan, and we have 6 backups if that happens. So I just think from an organization perspective, you were going up against an organization that you have to look as close to perfect against. And if you don't, and you just give the Dodgers a little bit of a, a cushion, an angle of this, that, they're going to take advantage of it. And like I said, if you're looking at, if you're looking right now around all of baseball, not even just baseball, if you look at sports right now, the Dodgers are sitting there and they got their TV deal in order. They are taking advantage of a system that is, deferring money and then being able to spend that money on other players to take advantage of baseball system. They got a fan base that will churn 50,000 fans every single game. They're putting revenue back in. They have a Guggenheim group that's worth over $350 billion that is doing business just completely different. So with all that being said, the Padres being out of the mix for Roki Sasaki, I did think it was kind of a little bit more of a Hail Mary, and I don't think Hail Marys are a good game plan. You might get a Hail Mary every now and then, but I don't think it's a good game plan. The only thing that I will say, too, which kind of sucks in all of this, I do think for baseball, it was good what was being built between the Padres and the Dodgers. 2 SoCal teams, 2 hours apart. I can tell you right now, Padres definitely are not fans of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think there was kind of a growing Dodger fan base that's like, yeah, well, you know what? We don't like the Padres. Even if their rival is the Giants, 3 of the last 5 years, these two teams have faced each other in the playoffs. Fox was running all these promos when the playoffs were about to start. Manny Machado, and it's, Shohei, and it's this, Dodgers, Padres, West Coast. I felt like that was a good rivalry. Well, now you got 2 organizations going in completely different directions. So, unfortunately, for my squad, not going in the direction that I was hoping for. So there's my breakdown of Roki and him not potentially going to San Diego. Look, he's not going to San Diego. So that part's done. So now the question is going to be, will he actually go to Toronto? No, he's going to go to the Dodgers. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm going to read a couple of these, and we'll go from there. It's a Dodgers world, and you're just living in it. Right now, you could say that. What else you want me to tell you? I might not like it, but it's the truth. Slee, you doing a show on MLK Junior Day? I will be doing a show. Monday, I'm doing a show. Are you kidding me? We got NFL playoffs coming off the weekend. Got 2 Laker games. What kind of a business do you think I'm running here? Taking Monday off. I will not be taking Monday off. I will be here. All right, here's what we got. Padres stuck with those awful long contracts and TV rights uncertainty. It was never sustainable. Let's see what we got here. A couple more here. If this was the NBA, Roki would go to the Padres. Hey, I will tell you guys this. I'm going to have Dylan Hernandez on here pretty soon. He's with the LA Times as well. And Dylan, him and I have had some really nice conversations kind of behind the scenes. I saw him at a Lakers game a couple days ago, and we've had a lot of conversations behind the scenes about just kind of the state of Major League Baseball and the model of what the NBA has and the model of what the NFL has. Those are the most sustainable models. I don't know if you can have such a disparity in baseball when it comes to team spending the way they are. How can you have one squad, making all this money from their TV deal and other squads literally in bankruptcy with the Diamond Sports Group? So we'll do that at some point, and we'll go from there. Slee, you're independent now, like me. We don't work. We don't get paid. That part you're right about. It's kind of funny. Also, too, there was what day was it? What day was it? By the way, I still got some NFL stuff to get into. I know we're going a little bit late today, but it's all good. The other thing, around the holidays. You know what I found around the holidays too? There was obviously a lot of these networks are taken off, or a lot of the local shows are taken off, or whatever. It's how it works across the country. It was actually kind of an open platform for me. I'm like, all right, well, people still want to talk sports, or they still want it. All right, I'll work. I'll work when nobody else is working. So it's kind of an interesting learning experience for me. So Monday, I'll be here on Monday. All right, let's switch gears here. Let's go to the NFL here real quick. I got real couple quick things on the Rams and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies. Yep. Rams are playing the Phillies, guys. We got the Phillies. The Eagles, and then weekend preview, and then we're going to get the hell out of here. Let me see what we have here. OT with Slee. Oh, I like that. OT with Slee. I like that. All right. Rams and the Eagles. Sunday at noon. By the way, how good is this weekend? Oh, Jesus. How good is this weekend? Got Texans at Chiefs Saturday at 1:30. You got Washington, the Commanders at Detroit Saturday at 5 p. Baltimore at Buffalo Sunday at 3:30, and then Rams at Philly Sunday at noon. So second time these teams have played each other so far this year. Week 12, they played at SoFi. Philly won that game. Philly won that game 37-20. So Philly favored by 6 points. By the way, that was the game. Saquon Barkley just rushed for 255 yards. That's nothing. Let me say this. I think that right now there's a little bit of a just assumption that the Rams are going to lose this game. Since Rams lost against Philly in week 12, they won 5 in a row, and then they lost the game against Seattle where they basically sat everybody. So I will say this. I will say that I think it's going to help the Rams that they already got their asses kicked against Philly. I think it's going to help the Rams that they already got a chance to see, Philly play arguably one of their best games of the season. I think it's going to help them that they saw Saquon Barkley run for 255, 2 touchdowns, one on a 72-yard run, one on a 70-yard run. I think all that's going to help them. I think the fact that they have that there's a little bit of a blueprint here of how they lost to them. So I think in a weird way, this helps the Rams that they had that game. I think it certainly can be of benefit to them in the short term in this one game. All you got to do is just make sure this is a game going into the fourth quarter. It is Sean McVay. It is Matthew Stafford. It is Cooper Kupp. There's some players here that have, won a Super Bowl and have been in the mix and know what it's like to win a tough playoff game. Now, listen, if you're asking me, where would you put your money? I'm putting my money on the Eagles, but I think this can be an interesting game. Here's the problem with Philly. They're phenomenal on defense. They can run the ball. Those are the two things you want in a playoff team. Once you get to the playoffs, can you play defense and can you run? And they do both of those. Jalen Hurts is a stud. They got a lot of options on offense. Their defense is definitely one of their foundations of their team. So it's going to be an incredibly tough game. But the thing I like about it is just the mere fact that they got a chance to already play each other. So we'll see what happens. That game again, Sunday at noon. Texans at Chiefs. Real quick weekend preview, and then we're done here. Texans at Chiefs. Somebody's asking, can the Texans beat the Chiefs? The answer is no. I don't think so. CJ Stroud versus Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs already beat them week 16, 27-19. Actually, not that bad of a game. Chiefs favorites, 7.5-point favorites. I think Chiefs win the game. Let me just stay in the AFC here for a quick second. Baltimore at Buffalo. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun game. Baltimore at Buffalo. Both teams trying to prove something. Josh Allen, one of these two teams, whoever loses between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, the conversation is going to continue to grow. Josh Allen just can't win the big one. Lamar Jackson, his playoff woes continue. That's going to happen to one of those two players, so that should be a fun game. KC gets to sit back like, yeah, once you guys fight it out, we'll take on the Texans and CJ Stroud at home, and then one of you guys are going to come face us. Baltimore beat Buffalo 35-10 in week 4, so something to keep in mind there. And the last game I'm going to get into is Washington and the Commanders, or the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions, Saturday at 5 p. Washington won their first playoff game in 19 years with a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. I think that ends, Dan Campbell, Jared Goff trying to get the Detroit Lions to their first Super Bowl ever. They're 9.5-point favorites. They probably win that game. All right. What do we at here? $1.19? Jesus. What's happening here? Who works this much overtime? Slee, are you a Rams fan? I have no affiliation to the NFL. Nothing. I have no heart towards the NFL. My team left me, and instead of picking a new team, I just sit in the background and I hate. I respect the Rams. I really do. I mean, I'm not a fan. I don't have rooting interest. I don't. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but I have there's certain franchises you have a respect for. In baseball, it's like, hey, I like the way Tampa's run and St. Louis is run and the Atlanta Braves. Like there's certain franchises. In the NFL, it's like, Jesus, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. These teams are always in the mix. Rams are one of those teams in the NFL. Kind of respect what they've done. All right, a couple more here, and then we're done here. Slee is a Charger hater, not a Rams fan. That is correct. That is correct. Okay, my people. I think we're good. I really appreciate you guys hanging out as long as you guys have. What are we? An hour and 20 minutes in. Really good show today. Fun show today. I enjoyed breaking everything down for you guys. Obviously, talking a lot of Lakers basketball. Dan Woike came on. We got a really, really good sports weekend coming up, so I think that's going to be fun. And thank you for hanging out for as long as you guys did. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll get some clips from some of the show a little bit later that I'll be putting up as well, and we'll go from there. 2 more hours, Slee. I will tell you, I will be back on tonight after the Lakers take on the Brooklyn Nets, so we'll be back on tonight. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend if we don't talk to you guys tonight, and I will see you guys back either Friday night, which is tonight, Sunday night after Lakers Clippers, or Monday morning on MLK Day. We'll be back on doing some work. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.